Hey everyone, welcome to our small footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a family of 8 who live off-grid in Australia. Now, I have been very slack with videos lately. Today is Wednesday, it's actually my birthday. I am 40 today, and I haven't put any videos out for the last few days. So I always say, and it rings true for me, that if I fall out of the habit of making videos, I find it really hard to get back into that habit. So the daily videos that I normally do post shopping, I just start them and I just start churning them, and then it becomes just part of the rhythm of my day. But because I was really sick, I didn't get a chance to do those start of those daily videos, and so what I've got is a whole lot of footage with nothing else done to it. So what I'm going to do is I have got a few days worth of notes of video that I'm going to put together, because I didn't take extensive video because I wasn't feeling well. So we're going to do it in few day chunks every couple of days. That's what we're going to do this month, see how it goes. Maybe we'll do the same sort of thing, but with more forethought next month. Maybe we'll go back to the dailies. We'll just see how it goes. It depends on what we buy too, for that matter. So what I tend to do, we are a family of 8. We grocery shop every 6 weeks. And at the end of that 6-week grocery shop, I come home and I show everyone what I bought, which I did this month. And then normally I do sort of daily videos post that to show how we make everything that we purchase in that 6-week shop last, preserved, frozen, eaten, prepared in such a way that it's going to last us that full 6 weeks. And everyone loves this series, so this is what I try and do every month. Obviously, I've been a bit slack this month. So for anyone who's new here, that's the explanation for what we're doing. So I basically just do these videos of voiceover, videos with a voiceover of all the food prep that I do each day. I've got 4 days, I think, worth here, and a lot of it is meals. I did contemplate just doing an extra what we eat in a week for meals, but it would have ended up really, really long, and there's other bits and pieces in there that aren't really part of the meals, but that I still want to share. So I think breaking it up into a few day clumps will work out quite well, and we'll just see how it goes. You can give me feedback in the comments, because, you know, I think it'll work. But because of the way I make videos too, I take all the footage and then I edit all the footage and put it together, and then I write myself out notes. I've actually got them typed because my hands aren't, the weather change, my wrists and stuff aren't working, so I'm having to type things up. I can't handwrite at the moment, but I type them all up into notes, and then I come out here and I stand in front of the camera and I use these notes and some timestamps, and then I verbalize for the video, but I don't have the video in front of me. So then I walk inside and I take all these voice files and I match them with the video and speed up, slow down, cut and paste as needed in the video. So sometimes I do all this, I get inside, I put it all together, and I get to the end of it and I go, ugh, wasn't quite what I was planning, but at the same time, all that work to put it together is really hard to then change that work. So we're going to give it a go. Feedback in the comments. Hopefully anyone who's new, this will work for you as well, but it's mostly for all the people who are expecting me to do these, because I've been really slack and it makes me feel guilty. So here we go. Let's see what we got done. This is the first few days post the 6-week grocery haul. The other thing about doing it this way too is I like to keep my videos fairly in order. There will be an occasional video where I do a chat with you, like a catch up in the garden, which I haven't done for the last couple of weeks because I haven't felt really well. But this weekend I'll probably do one because I'm getting some plants out in the garden and things like that. But mostly I like to just keep these videos in order. So this is the first few days, and then I'll do the next few days, etc., etc. If you want to see what's going on current, like what's right now and today, then check out my Facebook and my Instagram, because that's stuff that's happening right now that I put up there most of the time. I did just share my birthday cake on there. I'll put a photo up here for anyone who doesn't follow me there. I made myself sourdough cinnamon scrolls with lemon cream cheese icing. But of course, the video for that will come out in a few days, because we'll do these in order. So then I'm just ruining my own timeline here, aren't I? But anyway, I'll put a quick shot up there just because of that. But here we go. Let's see what we got done. Alright, so as I said, I came home with a cold, so I was feeling pretty crappy right from the word go. When I rang Mum the next day, she had a cold as well, so obviously we both picked it up. She blames Costco, it's quite possible. So I want to get everything working as well as possible in the easiest methods possible, because the whole point is that I don't want any waste. I don't want anything at all to go to waste. So some of the things that really need to be used up pretty quick are the veggies that I got in bulk, and getting the meat processed. So the veggies are the easy part because that's what I should be eating while I'm not feeling well anyway. So that's what we start with. So the first day, for breakfast we had okonomiyaki, which I've made a few times on here. It's a Japanese cabbage pancake. I made some of the chicken thighs, sliced up, marinated and fried up, and then we had them with some homemade mayo and a bit of the ABC sauce or the kikap manis. Now, this is a favourite of the kids, this recipe. They really enjoy it, and it's so filling and so easy to make. I have gone over it before, but and you can Google it, okonomiyaki, but it is basically just a cabbage pancake, and you can use whatever you want in it. It doesn't have to be just cabbage. It can be sliced carrot or anything else, and I've even used the coleslaw that I've pickled and canned and used that as the base of it as well. That worked quite well. The pancake batter is basically that. So it's a bit of soy sauce, flour, water, and eggs. Approximately a quarter of a cabbage to about 3 eggs and a cup and a half of flour, approximately, and a good glug of soy sauce. But it really depends on the size of your cabbage. It kind of depends on how finely you cut it as well, because you want that batter to coat the cabbage. And some people like it quite sloppy, so there's a lot of pancake with just a bit of cabbage, but we prefer it to be a whole lot of cabbage held together by a little bit of batter. So there is personal preferences there. You can use any veggie you want though, of course. We like to serve it, as I said, with a bit of the marinated chicken thighs. We like to serve it with a bit of meat, but you don't have to. And then we use mayonnaise. It's traditionally uses the Kewpie mayo style stuff, and then we use kikap manis, which is the ABC sauce. It's traditionally served with tonkatsu sauce though, but I don't want to buy it specifically for this. I think I can make it. I haven't looked it up, but I have been meaning to make the ABC sauce, mind you. Christine gave me a link to a recipe for that. I just haven't got around to trying it yet. So we go through a fair bit of that. It'd be nice if I could make it myself. Though it just depends on what the ingredients needed are to make it. Because sometimes making it yourself is not economical if you have to buy specialty ingredients to make it, if that makes sense. So we'll see how we go. So the first couple of days back, I get a bit flat anyway, even when I'm not sick, and I just want to eat good food without too much work, and okonomiyaki is one of those things for us. It's just really tasty food with minimal effort, very filling, and it uses up things that we need. For dinner, we had steak. So I bought steak it was $30 a kilo for a whole rib fillet. It's not something that we spend money on very often, but my birthday month, Mother's Day this month, that sort of thing, so I decided to splurge and bought the rib fillet. I sliced it up this night the first time, very much looking forward to it. Sliced it up to eat. I sliced the kids 6 sort of thin slices. They deserve steak too. And Darryl and I a little bit thick. We do theirs fairly thin because they like theirs fairly well cooked, whereas Darryl and I like ours pretty rare. And then I baked a potato bake and a broccoli bake. I did the potato bake with a standard, flour and fat roux with dairy-free milk and things like that, like a white sauce type, cheesy but with nutritional yeast because we don't use cheese, white sauce type base because potatoes suck up a lot of liquid, so you want that fairly thin. For the broccoli one, I did with a cashew cheese style sauce, a bit sweeter, a bit thicker, because broccoli doesn't let out as much water. It doesn't need as much it doesn't suck up water, it lets out water, so you want the cheese sauce to be a little thicker to compensate for that, whereas the potatoes suck up the liquid sort of thing. So yeah, the broccoli creates liquid as it cooks, which means that you need the sauce to be a little bit thicker. So I did a cashew cheese one, and also because I was making 2 sort of cheesy baked things, you want them slightly different. So the potato one was sort of a white sauce done with dairy-free milks, and the broccoli was a cashew cheese style one. I topped them all off with bits of the lard bits. So when we rendered our lard in the video a while back, you get all the little cracklings on the top, and we decided to keep them. We gave some to the dogs in their meals, good fats for them too, but we kept a whole lot in a freezer bag because we thought we'll find something to do with it. So what I've been doing is sometimes I add it to the crumbs for my chicken, or what I did here was I just crumbed some up. It was frozen, so I stuck it in the Thermomix to make it nice and fine, and I sprinkled it over the top of the bakes, which gives it that crunch, but it also gives it a little bit of fat, and it's really tasty. Some people might, really cringe at it, but it's very tasty. So I put them on, gives some texture, some flavor, looks good. With the steak, as I said, I sliced some thin pieces off for the kids, so I could just sort of fresh fry them and they'd be good to go, and served it up with the potato bake and the broccoli bake as a sort of serve yourself affair. I only slightly salt and peppered the steak, got the cast iron pan really nice and hot with a little lard, and then got that great caramelization on the steak, and then just served up the tray bakes as well for them to serve. The Darryl's and mine were the same. As I said, I cut them a little bit thicker, really hot pan, bit of lard, salt and pepper, put them on a really nice high heat which sears the outside, turn it down, but we eat it pretty rare so it doesn't take much time to cook anyway, the rib fillet, and we didn't cut them too thick because we want to get more than one meal out of this steak that we've got. So, and then we had it with the potato bake and the broccoli bake. A very decadent meal, having that expensive steak and then the two different veggie bakes, but so yum and so nice. So that was dinner that night. The next day, I still wasn't getting a whole lot of prep done. I'm still feeling pretty crappy, struggling a little, but still needing to get some of this food sorted. So we're just working through what we can. So for breakfast, I sliced the rest of the steak up, put some really nice pieces into vacuum seal bags to use for steak again later in the month, and then used what was left of the point of the steak, so the pointy bit of the steak that doesn't slice into steak pieces very nice, and sliced it up into strips to use for breakfast. So I got this really big box of fresh baby spinach, 1.2 kilo box of spinach or 1.5 kilo box of spinach. It's gorgeous. It's this lovely dark green, really fresh, really nice. I scrambled up with some eggs, added some of the bacon bits that I had from the butcher as well because they need to be used as well, and sauteed up some broccoli to go with it. So we just used the broccoli with a little bit of lard in a cast iron pan, and then we did the scrambled eggs with the spinach and a bit of bacon in the other pan. And then I flash fried the steak strips in some salt and pepper. So I cut them really nice and fine. They just need enough time on the pan to heat up so you're not eating cold steak, which, you know, that's fine. You can eat cold steak as long as it's cooked. This was raw, so, you know, not so good. But anyway, so then I served it all up with a dairy-free hollandaise. So we love hollandaise. I don't make it very often though because it uses egg yolks only, but that didn't matter because I used the whites with the scramble here. But also, it uses a fat, and normally, because we don't use butter, I normally use ghee, which ends up quite expensive, especially if it fails, because hollandaise fails every now and again. So because I wanted it, and I was a bit iffy about it, I actually had bought some Nuttelex, a tub of Nuttelex from Costco, because Apollo wants to do some baking this month, and I haven't made any of my dairy-free margarine up. I really do need to, but I haven't yet. So I had the Nuttelex, and I used that to make the hollandaise. You know, all the bad oils and everything that are in Nuttelex, but you have to choose, you know, what you're leaving alone and what you're not. And we really wanted hollandaise. So I made hollandaise in the Thermomix. It's perfect. You throw everything in and turn it on, and you have hollandaise, lemon juice, pepper, egg yolks, butter, and you've got it. So I used that over the top of the steak and the veggies and stuff, and it was so good. So then for dinner, we had our favourite pesto pasta. So I've made this plenty of times on the channel. I mixed up the sauce. It's half a dozen egg yolks, a jar of basil pesto or sun-dried tomato pesto, olive oil and lemon juice, and a dash of cowboy candy, and you whisk it all up and set it aside. I marinated some chicken thighs like I normally do. Paprika, salt, pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, lemon juice, cowboy candy, all that sort of thing. And put that aside to be fried off as well. I also cut up a couple of heads of broccoli because we're working our way through the broccoli as well. So I bought 8 kilos of broccoli, which is a lot. It's an amazingly large amount, to be honest, but there is 8 of us. So if we can get it to last 2 weeks, it's only 500 grams per person per week. So it's not really not that much, but it's amazing how when you cut up a couple of heads, how much it seems. But anyway, so I sauteed the chicken and the broccoli together in the cast iron pan, and then when the pasta was almost done, I threw handfuls of spinach into the pasta water so that would wilt. Then all I do is I pulled all the pasta out with the spinach out of the pasta water and put it into the egg yolk mix. Then when you stir the pasta and the pasta water through that egg yolk mix, you're cooking the egg yolks, and you end up with this gorgeous creamy eggy pasta sauce. It's really delicious. So then I just served the broccoli and the chicken in with it as well, and that was dinner that day. The next day I don't have breakfast listed, but we probably had leftovers for breakfast, I'm not sure, or Darryl cooked it or something, I'm not real sure. And I decided to try out the Wonderbag. So from lunchtime, I started that to give it a go. So the Wonderbag I got on Marketplace. You can see in my grocery shop with me video, I mentioned it. So it's a slow cooker, a non-electrical slow cooker, basically. It's a South African item, and it's basically a giant insulated bag that you put pots in. So it's going to have a bit of a learning curve, I think. I also think it'd perform better in summer or on a winter day where we have the fire going inside and the inside temps are quite high, because it was quite chilly inside and outside today, this particular day, and I don't think it got as hot or maintained its heat for as long as necessary, especially for a beef dish. Maybe for a different dish, like for a chicken dish or a vegetable dish, it would have been completely fine. But for a beef dish, I don't think it held temperature high enough and maintained it for long enough to get the beef to where you want it. Everything was cooked, but just not quite to beef stew fall apart kind of cooked. So I will keep on trying with this. It's definitely something that I'm going to use. I just have to figure out the best way to use it. So I tried a simple beef recipe. As I said, I'd like to try a different one later this month. The beef trim that I got from Costco, I'm going to cut up into some stew meat and some actual vegetables in there. And I think that the vegetables will give me a better idea of how well it's cooking, or it's breaking down the vegetables and things like that, rather than the beef, because it's kind of hard to tell with the beef. Depends on which beef you're using and things like that. So I googled some beef recipes and just went with simple beef barbacoa. I wanted to use some of the chipotle and adobo that I had. I have no idea if I just said that right either. Just, bear with me. I had bought that at the behest of a couple of viewers had mentioned that they thought I would like it, so I grabbed it because it sounds really good. I didn't realise that it was smoked jalapenos, so, Anyway, so I grabbed that. I grabbed the barbacoa recipe because it uses that in it, so I wanted to see how it was. So I put all the ingredients into my cast iron lidded pot and then brought it up to a boil, and then you keep it at a boil or a hard simmer for 15 minutes. That's the instructions on the Wonderbag. After those 15 minutes, you put it in the bag. So once that time was up, I transferred it into the Wonderbag. It cautions using a tea towel or something under the pot, just to protect the fabric of the Wonderbag, which makes sense, I guess, because I don't imagine you'd want to stick the bag in a washing machine. You just want to spot clean it. So it makes sense to try and protect the bag to a degree. So I did that. I put the tea towel in the bottom, placed the pot in, and then I closed it up really nice and tight. Made sure that the lid was over the top of the pan and that the edges of the bag come up over the lid and all that sort of thing, so it was really nice and firm. I thought about it a bit later that I should have put my Bluetooth probe inside the pot, and then I could have sort of seen what temperature the inside of the pot was running at the whole time. I'd forgotten. I didn't want to open everything up because that sort of defeats the purpose of it all. So I just slid the probe into the Wonderbag beside the pot to see if it was. The temp got up to about 70 in there, and it held for a while and then dropped slowly back to about 55 by the time I checked it. That's in Celsius. So it definitely kept everything warm enough to be safe, but I just don't think it held high enough for long enough for the beef to get nice and fall apart. So what we did was we pulled it out because it was dinner time, and the meat was tender enough, you could easily bite it off and chew it, but it just wasn't fall apart. So all we did was we chopped it up into little strips. Darryl chopped it up for me. Really poor lighting, really poor angle here, but he chopped it all up for me, and I can't even remember what we used it on. I think we did tacos with it, to be honest, but I obviously don't have footage with it. But I think I did corn tortillas and we had it on tacos. So it was super tasty. It just wasn't fall apart, and I think that was mostly user error. So I'm definitely coming back to this. I'll do a whole video on it when I try a few more different recipes and see how they go. But I thought that this wasn't enough for a whole video on its own. I want to do some other experiments with it when I do that. So I'm just going to pop it in here. And then day 4. So this is the 4th day after shopping, and we're still on the broccoli kick. I'm not complaining because it's lasting really well. It came in a styrofoam container, still had ice in it. Once the ice melted, I poured the water off, and I've just been putting some ice bricks in it to keep it chilled in there, and it's lasting really, really well. So I'm very happy with that buy. I've always hesitated to buy the boxes of broccoli because I just don't think they'd last well enough, but it's proved me wrong. The spinach is also lasting super well too in the fridge, and that's probably partly because it's in the secondary fridge that isn't working properly. So it's probably a good thing for the spinach because the temperature isn't cold, it's just cool. But anyway, so I sliced up a couple of heads of the broccoli to put in the cast iron pan. This is the way we do most of our veggies. A little bit of lard, cast iron pan, sauteed. Everyone loves them like that. It just gives them some really nice flavour, and it just really works for us. So I fried off the broccoli, and then I did the spinach and scrambled eggs again. I'd cooked off some of the marinated chicken from the other night in the pan before scrambling the eggs, so you can see that the eggs stick quite badly in the bottom of the pan, but they're just picking up all the cooked bits from the marinated chicken, which is a good thing because that gives me flavour in the eggs, but it looks pretty bad on camera. So scrambles with the spinach in the pan that we just cooked the chicken in, and then I made hollandaise again because I could, and I was scrambling eggs, so I used the whites in the scramble and the yolks in the hollandaise. The hollandaise really tops off a meal like this. Like, it really makes it very decadent. I normally make homemade mayo and use it on top of these things anyway, and that's a similar sort of thing, but it's cold, whereas the hollandaise is nice and warm, and I think that's what's appealing at this point of the year. I wasn't feeling well, it's chilly, the hollandaise is kind of warm and rich, and it just, yeah. So anyway, I made hollandaise again and again with the nuttoleks, but that's fine. I decided that we'd have hamburgers for dinner, and I really wanted to look at that beef trim that I got from Costco. So in case you haven't watched the shopping video, I asked at Costco about buying mince in bulk rather than just the 4 kilo packs, because I find that the 4 kilo packs are quite messy. They tend to get squished and they bleed everywhere, and it drives me nuts. But they don't sell mince in anything but that. However, they mince their own mince on site, and they buy boxes of beef trim that they turn into mince. So I managed to buy a box of beef trim. It was 20 odd kilos of beef trim, and it's in 2 10 kilo vacuum sealed bags. And same price as the mince, but more versatile for me, so I was happy to pay for it. So this is the first time I've opened up a bag. I opened up a bag and had a good look. There's a lot of what I assume are the points of the roast, you know, the bits that don't fit the standard size roast that someone wants to buy, the aesthetically displeasing pieces of beef. Which is fine, it's still just beef. And there is some bits that are very fatty and things like that, but that's supposed to be because it's a 90-10 mix. So it's 90-10, 90 meat, 10 fat in these bags, that they're already proportioned that way. So there's going to be a decent amount of fat in there. But there is some really thick roast pieces in here too. So the next bag that I open, I'm going to go through and I'm going to cut out a whole bunch of those really nice thick roast pieces, meaty bits to use for stews. We'll try them in the Wonderbag and that. And then I'll mince up the rest. This particular time, not feeling well, just want to get it over and done with. This bag had been pierced. It wasn't vacuum sealed anymore. It had been caught on something, I think one of the chicken trays to be honest, and had a tear in it, so it needed to be used straight away. So I minced the whole lot up. We'll use it for ground beef or minced beef for various different things. I'd normally do a big batch of bolognese up first thing in the month, but we still have a few in the freezer, so it's not that big a rush. So I decided that I was just going to vacuum seal and freeze it. So I vacuum sealed the mince up in 2 kilo bags and then just stick it in the chest freezer, and then when I want to make bolognese, I regularly pull 2 or 4 kilos out depending on the size of the bolognese I'm making, and make the bolognese then. But I also have that other 10 kilo bag, so I like to have some mince vacuum sealed in the freezer for incidental times as well. It's a little bit of an emergency meat for me, I suppose. There's so many things you can make from ground beef if you've got, or mince, whatever you want to call it, ground beef, beef mince, hamburger, whatever. There's so many things you can make from it that take very little of anything else. So regularly at the end of the month, I look up recipes and just make some random things. We've been making pastizio recently, which was really nice, but even lasagna soup, all those sorts of things that I can just make with ground beef, beef mince in a pinch. And it defrosts really well too, but also you're normally cooking it in a way that you can even stick it in the pan frozen and break it up as it cooks. So anyway, obviously I had help with these and I wasn't feeling 100%. So I actually have no footage of making the hamburger patties. I did it the normal way. I'll show you again. I will make hamburgers again when I mince the next lot because there was a few things that we want to test out. I did the normal pressing it with the tortilla press that I use. That's how I make my hamburger patties. You can see it in any previous video. But they didn't hold together as well because we did a coarse grind of mince. I think what I'm going to need to do is buy one of those cast iron meat presses and put the ball in the cast iron pan and then press it in the pan. I think that's going to work. So we do them smash burger-esque. It's very much of a click word, isn't it? But that's how we sort of do them. But I normally use the tortilla press to help it, and we're normally using pre-minced beef. But Costco minces their beef twice, so they do a coarse grind and a fine grind. I didn't want to do that because I want the texture of the coarse grind. But it does mean that it doesn't emulsify as well, so it doesn't hold together as well. So I either need to emulsify it a little bit by hand or whatever else, or I need to press it in the pan, I think is the thing. So we will experiment with that and I'll make hamburgers again. this month. So we'll try it. When I mince that next lot of beef, I'll make hamburgers that night when I mince that next lot of beef. So the only footage I got was of the hamburger buns, and I didn't even get footage of them cooked. Only of me giving them an egg wash and sprinkling them with sesame seeds. So I have no idea. I don't even have a photo of the burgers for that night on my phone. Obviously one of the peak days of me feeling just not so great. So that was the first 4 days. Food prep, meal prep, freezer prep, as well as the meals that we had, using up some of this stuff. As we go a further few days in, I am doing more bulk prep because I feel a little bit better. But yeah, it was a little slow in that first week, which, as I said, has thrown me out of my filming rhythm, which means that these videos have hit a bit of a speed bump. So I will try and get back on track with those. So thank you for joining me again, everyone, and I will see you on the next video, hopefully within the next couple of days. Bye, guys.